Hello and good afternoon, everyone. Welcome back to another stream here on our DreamBank page. I'm Hannah, and I'm a dream curator here at the DreamBank. And before I get into our speaker today, I just wanted to let you know that we have two special giveaways for today's event. If you comment on today's post, you will be included in a drawing for one of two prizes. The first is a one-year single membership to the Madison Real Estate Investors Association. And the second is a free registration to Chris's Blueprint Academy, which is an 8-week training course and includes a one-year membership to the Madison Real Estate Investors Association. So some really fantastic giveaways and ways to continue your own learning beyond. Okay. Our featured presenter today has been a Madisonian for over 45 years. Chris Hake is a real estate investor, a coach, a speaker, a realtor, and business owner for over 20 years. He has been featured in magazines, several best-selling books, and has been heard across the country as a guest on a number of nationally syndicated podcasts. He is with us here tonight because his true passion and purpose is changing the lives of others through his real estate teachings. He will be sharing principles and strategies that have transformed his own life, as well as the lives of hundreds of others. So get ready, get excited, get a pen, and leave any of your questions in the comments because Chris is going to show us exactly how to achieve the life we desire, deserve, and dream about through rental real estate. So please join me in welcoming Chris Hake.
All right. Thank you, Hannah. I appreciate it. And it's so weird doing it this way the last few months. I'm so used to having an audience live, and I know it's kind of the new norm. So we're making the best of it, right? So I'm definitely looking forward to doing this tonight. It's something that, as Hannah mentioned, I definitely have a passion for. And tonight's going to be about a 10,000-foot view of buy and hold rental property and what that can look like. And so we're just going to get started and jump right into it. Quick legal disclaimer, just, some of the information that I might present. Again, this real estate investing is not a get-rich-quick scheme. This presentation is intended to educate. And if you ever find yourself in a situation where you're getting yourself into real estate, buying a rental property or any real estate at all, definitely seek the guidance and counsel from legal and accounting professionals, as well as others, but those two for sure. And I always strongly recommend that. All right. So who am I and why am I qualified to present to you guys tonight and this topic? So I'm Chris Hake, as Hannah mentioned. I've been in the Madison area for a long time. I'm a husband and father. My wife, Susanna, I'll be 25 years coming up here in November. I've got 3 boys, Tyler, Tanner, and Traylon, and those are the ages. Been an investor since 96. Actually, I put in there student because I've always been a student, continually learning all the time. I've also been a realtor since 97. I've been investing and coaching with people, mentoring since probably about 2000, so quite a long time. I used to teach the real estate investing course at Madison Area Technical College, which is now Madison College, from 2006 to 2010. I also formed the Real Estate Investors Association called Madison RIA, and I did that back in 2012. And that's really been a great organization that we've built up right here in the Madison area. I've been involved in hundreds of flips, rental properties, owned hundreds of them, raised tens of millions of dollars from private money lenders for my own deals, as well as helping others to fund their deals as well. I founded the Blueprint Academy about 5 years ago, and this is actually tonight's segment is just a snippet of that 8-week event that I teach a couple times a year and have been since 2015. Definitely have a PhD in the School of Hard Knocks. I've had all the good and the bad, and so I like to teach from the standpoint of both sides of the fence, and I believe people can learn a lot better that way. And I enjoy recreational outdoor stuff, golfing, biking, skiing, all that fun stuff. So that's who I am. What is tonight about? So again, I have taught this topic hundreds of times over the past 20 years. I started teaching this to realtors back in early 2000s. And then in 2006, as I mentioned, I started teaching this at MATC Actually, it was part of a three credit class that was part of the 2-year real estate program at MATC, and it was the real estate investment course. It was actually 54 hours long over 18 weeks. And so we got into a ton of depth and a ton of detail. That being said, I've also taught this same segment tonight in 3-hour blocks, which I do as part of my Blueprint Academy. And tonight I'm going to condense it even further down into 1 hour. So we're definitely going to be at a 10,000 foot view. And my hope is that you guys will be able to walk away with some nuggets, some things that you can think about and implement in your own lives as you go forward and think about real estate investing as a possible option for you. So rental properties are definitely a key to diversifying any rental portfolio. There's certainly other ways to invest, and I just believe real estate is one that I can certainly show people. There's been more millionaires and more wealth created across the U.S. and all over the world in the last many hundreds of years through real estate. The right rental real estate can yield both short-term and long-term gain, short-term being cash flow, and the long-term being a multiple of paying down debt through your mortgage payment, appreciation of the property as the property grows in value, tax benefits, and so on. And we'll talk a little bit about that in some future slides here. A lot of people are intimidated and confused at the thought of getting started, and I'm going to try to simplify a little bit of that. Again, real estate investing is simple, but like anything, it's not easy. It takes work, and I'm going to give you hopefully a few things you can use to jump on. But education for sure is a place that I think a lot of people skip. They try to jump right in, and they don't get the appropriate education to make sure that the decision they're going to make on purchasing something is solid. And so I want to help you with that today. Today's going to be just about a beginner's guide to get you guys launched and to get you started wherever you're at today. So that's the good news. Quick agenda. I'm going to talk a little bit about your why. Why are you here today? And why are you even considering today investing in real estate or some time down the road? Mindset around that, how important a team is in this whole game of real estate investing, the benefits of real estate investing, of having rental properties. I'm going to jump into an APOD, which is an annual property operating data. It's a worksheet. And I'm going to show you a little bit about that tool. That one tool, if you get nothing else out of tonight, is a tool that you're definitely going to be able to use to help you understand the numbers. A little bit about financing, property management. Good news and bad news about property management is somebody's going to have to manage a property. It can be you, but it doesn't have to be you. And so we'll talk a little bit about that. Some of the mistakes that I see a lot of people make. And then if I've got a little time there, kind of a bonus session on BRRRR strategy. And some of you may know that acronym. If you don't, that's okay. I'll get to it and we'll explain a little bit. So the first section is really your big why. And if you don't have a reason that you are going to buy a rental property or real estate for any matter, I can just tell you that at the first sign of a bump in the road or when things get tough, you will fall. And it's unfortunate, but if we don't have a reason that gets us up in the morning or something that is solid, when we hit the bumps, we will get derailed. And so having that why, you may know what it is already, and you may not have any reason or understanding of what that why is, but anything you do in life that's worth the time, energy, and effort, you've got to have a big enough why so when you do hit the bumps in the road, you can keep going. Having a why is not a wish. It's not a goal. It's not a hope. As I mentioned, and I say to my students all the time, hope is not a strategy. So your why is going to definitely inspire you. It's going to drive you. And you will know when you have the right why, when it's something that is from the heart. When you feel emotional about why you're doing something, why you get up in the morning, what drives you to understand it, to learn it, to want to make sure that it's a right fit in your life, it'll be an emotional decision. It'll be emotional feeling that you have. And that's when you know you're getting close to whatever that why is for you. You may have to work hard to find the why. Some people, it takes them a long time. Other people, they know right when I ask them what it is, and you can just tell by the way they describe it. And so that's what I hope for you. So finding your why is kind of that first step. The other is mindset. And mindset's one of those things that it can drive people in a good direction and unfortunately in a bad direction. Your subconscious mind is so powerful. Believing in yourself is one area of that. But if you don't have the belief in yourself, and whether that's just belief in you being able to do or buy a real estate property for a rental, it's that you don't know what you don't know, and that's okay. That's what you're on this journey for, and that's where tonight starts. Is you're starting to learn some of that, and that'll help you believe in yourself as you go forward. And if you don't have the belief in yourself yet, borrow it from other people. Find others who can believe in you or that you can get around. And I have association there. Association's a big part of that. I also like to talk to people and challenge them on what they're reading, what they're putting upstairs in their mind, because so much of what you put into your, that 6 inches of real estate upstairs is super important. And I'll talk to you about some reference materials tonight that would be good if you wanted to learn more. There are two types of mindsets, and we could get into a whole bunch of different areas, but the 10,000 foot view is a fixed mindset and a growth mindset. The fixed mindset is maybe you say yourself believe, or you find yourself believing something like, he's a natural born leader, or I'm just no good at dealing with money. So that is fixed in what you believe today, but that can change. And that's the good news. The growth mindset, and some of you already know where you're at right now. You believe anyone can be good at anything. These are two examples of how a fixed mindset might think or a growth mindset. And the good news is all of that can change, and a lot of it's with association and the types of stuff that you're putting upstairs. And I refer to a lot of reading. So let's talk about a team, because a team is so important with being a real estate investor and owning rental property. And know this, being a real estate investor, it's not a hobby. It is a business. And so if you do get into investing real estate, and I hope all of you do because it's available for everybody, just know that treat it like a business from day one. Okay. Part of that is having the right team, and you'll grow that over time. I know my team has changed over the last 20 years. I'm constantly adding people, and there's some people that are now off the team for whatever reason. But a realtor partner is one of them. I'm a realtor, and I still have realtor partners. And that should be a hint for all of you that a realtor is important, even if you have the skills and the license yourself. Having an attorney, having an accountant, which I mentioned at the very beginning, very important as part of the whole thing. Business partners may be a team member that you want to have. It may not be something you need. You have to decide that for yourself. And I think every deal will kind of show you the folks that you need on your team for that particular deal. Definitely money. So I have private lenders and banks. One way, shape, or form, there will always be some form of money being transacted, whether it's from a bank, from a private lender, from an institution of some sort. But definitely having those folks on your team that can get funding is important. A title company, I do all my transactions through a title company, and they are a really important part of my team. Also associations, I had mentioned, obviously the Madison REIA, my association. That's why I started it years ago, because I wanted to be around other people who were interested in real estate. And then coaches, mentors, other people that you can lean on to help you on your journey. So the benefits of owning rental property. So there's 4 main benefits. Number 1 is cash flow. Cash flow is king. When I run analysis on properties, or I talk to people about properties, cash flow to me, if there's not cash flow, there has to be a really, really, really good reason why that property would be an asset to buy if it didn't cash flow immediately. And there are certain circumstances that could apply, but I would tell you that if a property doesn't cash flow out of the gate, probably not the best place to start, especially as a brand new person. Cash flow is defined as the money left over after all your bills are paid, which are expenses, property taxes, insurance, utilities, and so on. Obviously, mortgage in there as well. And number two is the appreciation. Appreciation is just basically defined as the growth in value of a property over time. So future value or future sale price of a property minus what I paid for it. So if the future value is 200 and I pay 100, then my appreciation is 100. Pretty straight math. And the final piece of appreciation, which there's really two forms of it: natural appreciation and then forced appreciation. Natural appreciation is just what happens as the property grows over time. Now, forced appreciation is the one that I've really focused a lot of my energies on, and what I teach a lot of people to do over the last 20 years. I've built many businesses on forced appreciation, whether it's buying properties to flip them or definitely rental properties. So appreciation is a big one of those number two of the four benefits. Number three is principal reduction. And this is, real estate's great because someone else gets to pay the bills for us, hopefully. And that would be our tenants, the renters that sign a lease for the property. And they're our partners in this in one way, shape, or form. So they help us pay down that loan. And if I can own a property for 30 years and have a 30-year loan, I'm going to be thanking that tenant because they're basically going to pay off my property and I'm going to give them a great place to live. So principal reduction, another great benefit. And then the fourth one is depreciation. This is one of those benefits that one of the few gifts we get from the government, from the IRS, with being able to depreciate your property. And there's a whole lot that goes into depreciation, but just know that as another reason why you want to have a good accountant, because they can help you with the depreciation schedules on your rental property as you own the property year to year to year. So the next section is a worksheet. I'm not going to go through this worksheet. We just don't have time during this presentation tonight. But this spreadsheet is something that I created years ago. It's something that I used to teach. This spreadsheet actually a lot more detail at METC when I taught at the college. But this one worksheet is absolutely critical. This sheet has not only made me a lot of money over the years, but it's also helped me and saved me from buying properties that would have been a bad decision, because everything is about the numbers. And this worksheet is something that will help all of you. And I'm going to talk to you about how you can get a copy of it as we go forward. So I'm going to go really high level of some of the basic numbers that fit into that spreadsheet. I'm not going to go into any calculations really, but I just want you to see the flow of how I analyze a property and how I teach other people to do it, to try to keep it as simple as possible. So the very first area is the gross scheduled rental income. This is basically the sum of rent from all the units, including rent potential from vacant units. So assuming the property was always occupied, that would be the gross scheduled rental income. Next would be any other income that would come from that property. That would be parking, laundry, maybe different fees, a satellite dish, soda machines. And so I take those two together, add them, and I have my gross rental income plus any other income, and that is my total gross income. That is actually what I collect on a rental property in a given month. Next, I need to factor in vacancy and credit allowance. So this is expressed as a percentage of the total gross income over the course of a year. And I always use a number because it's not realistic to believe that my rental properties will always be rented, that tenants will always pay their rent. There's always a little gap in there, and I want to make sure that I plan for that. So that is my vacancy and credit allowance, which I'll show you in a little bit here, some of the numbers that I use for that. Next, after we take off some vacancy, now we have our gross operating income. This is the income that we have after we take our income that has been collected minus whatever vacancy factor that we figure for the year, just so we have a real solid number. Now we have a dollar amount to work with, okay? But we've got expenses. We've got real estate taxes, repairs, management fees, insurance, utilities, all those types of things that cost money to keep that property up and running properly during the course of a year. And so those annual operating expenses, when I subtract them from my gross operating income, or GOI, which you'll see acronyms in there, that is what is called net operating income. So again, don't worry about the order of this right now. I know it's really high level, but I wanted to just get the terminology out there so you can see that. So the net operating income is, I have a little picture of a money tree. That is your money tree. The net operating income is the gross operating income, which we showed you above, minus all the expenses that I calculate for an entire year. That is my profit if I don't have a mortgage on the property. If I bought a rental property for all cash, then my net operating income is going to basically be my cash that I get every year from this property. But to be honest, probably 95% of rental properties that anybody have, especially when they're buying brand new, are going to have some sort of debt on it, a mortgage or some sort of borrowed money on that. So if that's the case, then I have to take my money tree, my net operating income, and now I have to take out whatever debt I have on the property. So that would be my debt service or my mortgage minus whatever principal and interest is paid to the lender. So now that number minus my net operating income is my true cash on cash return. And I have in parentheses CFBT, which is cash flow before tax, because all this income we're creating it will be taxed, and it'll go against your personal taxes. So just know that that number will get taxed at some point in time. So this is a before tax number. So your NOI, your net operating income, minus your debt, whatever mortgage you have with the bank, is your total cash invested divided by your total cash invested. This will get you your cash flow before tax. If you buy a property with no money out of pocket, yes, that is possible. I know some of you might be saying, well, how does that work? I'm actually going to show you some examples of how that is absolutely possible. If you can do that, then your return is infinite, because even if you make $1 a year and you don't have any money into it, your infinite return because you have no cash invested. So that is possible. That is a whole nother seminar, but I'll give you some examples today just so you can understand that that is something that is possible. Let's see. So a couple other key definitions. Again, not going to get into a lot of detail, but cap rate, capitalization rate, is basically taking my net operating income and dividing it by whatever sale price I may be looking at. So there's a lot more definition into this, but these are all going to be part of that worksheet that I just showed you a few slides earlier. So the cap rate, the gross rent multiplier, and the debt coverage ratio are just all terms, acronyms that are used to give me a snapshot of an investment overall. And I teach all these in great detail, but for the sake of tonight, I just want you to understand those terms from a very basic sense and know that they all have a value, and I use all of them when I analyze properties. I don't use any one of them by themselves, meaning cash flow, cap rate, gross rent multiplier, or the debt coverage ratio, but I use them all together. When I analyze, I can look at all the numbers, and that gives me a bigger picture of, is this a good investment? Is this a good use of my money and time to buy this rental property? So I'm going to give you just some quick numbers so I can show you how they all flow. So everything that I'm showing you on the screen now is the exact order that I just presented it. And they fall in the same order on the spreadsheet too, that I will go back to in a second. But I just want to throw some really rough numbers so you can kind of see how the numbers actually look. So let's just take a duplex example. And let's say the duplex, as I show here, gets rents of $800 and $825 a month. So 2 units, each one gets $800, one gets $825. So when I add that up over the course of a year, that is $19,500, assuming everybody pays, correct? Secondly, is there any other income? Well, for the example here, I'm just going to assume that there's a storage locker in the back of the duplex that I rent to one of the tenants for $10 a month. Well, that adds another $120 to my overall income. So my total gross income is $19,620. Now, I mentioned that vacancy and credit allowance piece that, just having a buffer in there to make sure that if anyone doesn't pay, you've already taken that into account. So I use 8%, you can see right here. And there's a reason I use 8%, but that could vary. But I use 8%, and that's been a number that I've used for years. And so I'm just going to deduct and make an assumption that I'm going to lose an additional $1,570 a year on this property. So now my gross operating income is $18,050. That's what I have to go out and now run my business, my rental property. Well, the total expenses on that property in the course of a year with insurance and property taxes, all that other stuff is $7,463. When I subtract that, now I have my net operating income on my money tree, which I mentioned to you, of $10,587. So if I did not have a mortgage or I did not have any debt on this property, I would have $10,587. That is my cash flow in one given year. But as I mentioned, most people have a mortgage. And so this particular mortgage on this property is $5,617 for 1 year. So divide that by 12 and that'd be monthly payments. So my actual cash flow with debt is $4,970. Is that good? Is that bad? It depends. But in this example, as I'll continue to show you the other numbers, it actually is a pretty good number. This cap rate on this, based on the numbers, is 9.71. The gross rent multiplier is 6.04. And the debt coverage ratio is 1.88. Again, these numbers don't mean a lot right now on this sheet because there's explanation behind it. But I wanted you to see the flow. And when I get back to this spreadsheet again, I am going to give this to all of you. So if you want a free PDF copy of this guide, you just send me an email, complimentary copy. I'll email it to you. In the subject line, just type the acronym APOD, APOD, and send it to my email at chris@madisonrea.com. And I'll send you a blank spreadsheet that you could fill in on your own. And I'll send you one that'll be populated so you can see an example. And that'll be a tool that you guys can use. So definitely send me an email. This one sheet here has absolutely, it's a sheet that I still use to this day on every single property that I look at or analyze. So I want to get that in your hand. So definitely email me and I will get that to you. Next, I want to talk about financing. So financing, as I mentioned, most 95, probably 97% of people buying rental properties are financing it or have some debt on the property. So I want to talk about some of the considerations on that. First of all, banks will require personal income and credit verification. So if you're going into a bank to get a loan, which most people do, you just need to know that there's going to be certain things that the bank will be looking for. And none of these are things that you guys can't provide. It's certainly all doable. But I'm putting some of this out there so you can start that ball rolling, because what you want to make sure you do is, if this is something you're considering is buying a rental property, whether it's your first one or your 10th one, you want to start the conversation with banks. You want to start to get into relationships with banks so you can find out what you are capable of borrowing and what the bank feels comfortable lending on. And so they're going to require some different things, maybe a personal financial statement. They're going to need information on the rental property, leases, rent amounts. If you have prior landlord experience, that could be very beneficial, but it's not necessary, but it's just one extra thing that could help. Now, if you're looking to buy a rental property, and I hear the term house hacking, to buy a rental property and live in half, I love this strategy. And this is what I've been teaching young folks to do for years. If you can buy a rental property and live in it, not only are you getting in your feet wet on your first investment property, but you're also getting management experience on how to run a business, a rental investment business. And so banks love it because now you're the owner and you're on site, you're living there. So now the bank is going to give more favorable treatment to your financing, to the type of loan you get, less of a down payment. Anything 1 to 4 units, you can get residential owner-occupied financing. And it's a great way to start. I just helped my son do that last year when he was 22, got into his first rental property. And now our goal is to try to do that every 2 years until he's 30. And he'll basically be able to have 5 rental properties by the time he's 30. And they'll start to be paid off in full by the time he's late 30 because they're 15-year loans. And to jump on that, there's 2 different ways to get financing typically. There's more than that, but the most common would be getting a 15-year amortization, a 15-year loan on the property, or a 30-year. And these would have a bearing based on how you want to come out of the gate the day you actually buy the property. If you get a 15-year amortized loan at the bank, it's going to build your equity a lot quicker. It's going to reduce your cash flow, but it's going to pay the property off a lot quicker, and you're going to save a lot of money in interest. But if the property, you want to cash flow more today, you can take out a longer loan, which would be 30 years, and that would have a slower growth in your equity over time, and you're going to pay more in interest over time, but you're going to cash flow more today. So it's a choice that you have to make. So let's talk about property management. So there's really 2 arenas. One is to hire a management company. They're all over the place. You're generally going to pay between about 6 to 10% of the monthly rent collected. The management company will take over leasing. They'll show the property. They can do maintenance. There's a lot of things a maintenance or a management company can do. And for some people, that's a good fit if you're busy and you don't have the time to do it. What I recommend is to a lot of people, and this is the best education in the world, is a DIY, do it yourself. If you can get into your own property, especially if you own or occupy it, to get in, the cost is, well, pretty much free. It's your time, which I shouldn't say free because your time is very valuable. But you get to learn a ton. Banks, they're okay with that. If you're living in the property, you get to specialized knowledge that you wouldn't get if the management company was doing it, because now you're involved every day with leases and all the different aspects. So you have to decide which one's the right fit for you, but they're both options. That's the good news. So let's talk about some mistakes that I've seen people make over the years, that I've made over the years. The top 10. Number 1, deals take too long to get under contract. In this market, if you're spending time, days and weeks trying to analyze a property, if it's a good deal, it'll be gone. And so I try to teach people how to run numbers so that they can make a decision quick enough to make sure that that deal doesn't slip out between their fingers. Believing everything the seller or the listing agent on a property tells you. You have to verify the numbers. You have to be able to do that, because at the end of the day, when you buy that property, it's 100% on you. And you're the only one at the end holding the bag, and you want to make sure those numbers make sense. So do your due diligence. Trusting appraisals or assessments. These are very subjective. Assessments are really based on, the city and what the tax base is. And appraisals, they can be influenced. And I could hire 5 different appraisers and they would come up with 5 different numbers. So just something you need to do yourself. Doing your numbers in pencil. And I kind of make fun of this because if people are fudging the numbers to make it work, then the numbers probably aren't right. It's probably not a good deal. Overestimating market rents. You've got to be able to make sure that if you're buying a rental property, you know what the rents will go for in that market. And you need to do the research. And I've given you some examples of where to actually go check and to look into that. Completely believing the seller listing agent, that, when I'm looking at that, I'm always looking at motivation. What is the motivation of the seller? What is the equity in the property? Will it cash flow? So again, on top of, I think what I mentioned earlier in number 3, it's believing all that information that's given to me by these third parties. I want to validate it. And more than anything, I want to know a seller's motivation, because that's typically where you'll find the best deal. Not properly educated and or supported. So finding materials, courses, you guys are here tonight, and I applaud you for that. And because of that, you're getting information. You're starting to get education if this is your first time. But find those areas where you can learn, other people that you can learn from. Hang around other investors. That's why I built the Real Estate Association here in Madison, because we have 350 members. We have investors and people involved in real estate in all aspects of it. It's a great place to learn and to understand what's maybe the right fit for you and which direction to go. And/or mentors or coaches, people that have been there, done that you can plug into. Other mistakes, skipping the analysis. I showed you that APOD, and I'm going to give you a copy if you email me. Don't skip that step. That is a recipe for disaster. You can't just come up with 2 or 3 numbers and know what the deal is. You've got to make sure you run through those numbers. And it's easier than people believe. Making emotional decisions. Again, this is a business, right? This is a business decision. Business decisions are made around numbers. I don't fall in love with any properties. Now, if I'm going to buy it and live in it for the next many, many years, I have an emotional component. But for the purpose of the rental property, generally that's going to be a business buy decision, and I need to stick to my numbers. And of course, number 10, which isn't number 10 for any other reason than it's the last one, but it's super important. The numbers don't lie. When I teach people how to run numbers in these spreadsheets that I use, the numbers will tell you if it's a deal or not. Rely on the numbers as long as you do the research and the due diligence. So I said I would give you a bonus if we have time, and it looks like we still do, and we'll still be able to get questions in, which is awesome. So this is kind of bonus level 2. So there's an acronym called BRRRR, B-R-R-R-R. And if any of you have ever been on a very popular website called Bigger Pockets, you'll have seen this acronym and heard this. BRRRR stands for buy, rehab, rent, refinance, and repeat. Rinse and repeat. And here's exactly what that is. Buying a property below market, something that I can add value to. That's very critical, that first step. Once I buy it, then I need to rehab it. I need to spend money to make it rentable so I can get a solid renter in there. Okay, so that's part 2. The second R is renting it. Once I rehab it, now I can get my renter in there, and the property starts to produce cash flow, right? Now I've got a solid, stable rental property. Now I want to go to the bank and I want to refinance that property. So the refinance step is where I can now take my money out that I have created by this method of buying under value, getting it rented up, and now increasing the value of it. And when I refinance it, I can pull out that initial capital, and now I can go do it again. Rinse and repeat. Number 2, number 3, number 4. And so this is what I was talking about earlier when I said that you don't have to have your own money or any money to buy a rental property. And I know a lot of people don't believe it or don't think it's possible, but I'm going to show you a couple examples of that. So this is a property I bought after the real estate crash back in, I think this one was about 2014 or so. This is a rental property over in Madison. I basically borrowed all the money. I borrowed it from a private lender. I bought the property, just like I showed you in the BRRRR method. I rehabbed it and spent a couple months rehabbing it. I rented it up and got it all stabilized with rents. I ended up going to the bank then, and I did a refinance with the bank. I paid off my investor, and I had equity left over. Now, I didn't put any money in it to start. And so by the time I refinanced it, I had zero money into this property, and it was now cash flowing $1,300 a month. So no money down deal. Well, there was money, but no money out of my pocket. So that's a small one that I did. This is one I just did last year. And this was one that was actually a 32 unit apartment complex. This one purchased for $1.8 million. Rehab costs were a couple $100,000. I raised $650,000 from private investors, and I got a loan from a bank. So I had zero money out of my pocket into this deal when I closed. And so this one is still I'm on the third R right now of this one. I'm actually in the process of refinancing that. I've owned it for about 13 months, 14 months now. And I'm in the process of refinancing it. That should be done in about the next 4 weeks or so. And then all the money will be paid off to the investors. And I'll have one loan on the bank with the bank. And I'll have zero money out of pocket. And this one should cash flow about $4,500 a month. So 2 examples of this. It could be done with a single family home. It could be done with a duplex. So it is possible to do that. And going into detail is a whole nother section of this presentation or course. But tonight I wanted to spend, I think, about the first 45 minutes really giving you kind of a 10,000 foot view of some of the things to consider. I wanted to show you that spreadsheet. So that was a tool that you guys would have access to. And then show you maybe something a little more advanced where it is possible. Most people believe, I can't buy a rental property, Chris, because it'll take me 5 or 10 years just to save up the 20% down. Well, I got good news. There's ways, if you find good deals, there's ways to do it without needing 20% down. And I show people, been showing that for years and years and years. So just know that it's possible. That's what I want you to get from that. So a couple reference materials. These 3 books are basically foundational books I've used for years. I've taught from the books. When I taught at MATC back in 06 to 2010, I actually taught from the Millionaire Real Estate Investor book. And then the Flip and the Hold book are 2 other companion books. Fantastic books, general, about that world to get you started. If you're looking for books, I highly recommend them. I also wanted to, and I know Hannah's going to help me on this, offer a couple giveaways because, as I mentioned in the beginning and in the introduction when Hannah introduced me, I love giving back. I have learned this business over many, 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 many years, and I love teaching it. I love coaching and training other people. I love giving back in the community when I do this kind of stuff. And tonight I want to do that with you guys. So Hannah will actually pick people randomly. I'm not sure how she'll do it, but I left that up to her. I'm going to offer the 1-year membership to our association so you can get plugged in. And then also a Blueprint Academy registration. And that one alone is about a $900 value. And that's for our training class. And so if that's you, I highly recommend to get yourself plugged in. And then a lot of this detail will make more sense. And if you're interested to learn more about that, you can go to the website. All my information's on the website at madisonria.com, and you can find all that. One last piece. This is a snapshot of some of the different functions that we have. Right up here is Christmas party, I think a couple years ago that we had a whole group of people. This is a cash flow game night. If you've ever heard of Cash Flow 101 or Robert Kiyosaki, this is a game board that we play. Of course, when we didn't have the COVID happening, we were doing all our stuff live, but this is something we do monthly, and I can't wait to get back and do it again. It's like Monopoly in the real estate world. So it's really a cool game, and you guys are welcome to come when we get back live. This is one of our bus tours that we take when we go look at properties around Madison. So I show people live the exact stuff that I talked to you about tonight. And this is one of our large events we had last year or 2 years ago with a whole bunch of people that are part of our association. So that is the presentation. Wow, 45 minutes. That went quick. So I'm opening it up to any questions. Hannah's going to help me here, and I'm happy to answer anything you guys have now or at any time later. You've got my contact information. Get a hold of me anytime. I'd love to help you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Chris. We did have a few questions. The first was, can you explain what forced appreciation is? Again.
Forced appreciation? Was that the question?
Yes.
Oh, yeah, that's a great one. So forced depreciation is when I buy properties, I try my darndest to buy things that are undervalued, meaning they're probably in some form of distress. And so recently I bought a property for $90,000, and the value of it on the open market in good shape is $150,000. Well, that $90,000 property is really worth $150,000. All I have to do is a little work to it, maybe put a little repairs into it, clean it up, maybe have a cleaning crew come in or put some new appliances in or whatever, paint it. And that gap between 90 and 150, now I've forced that appreciation up to the true market value because I just did some things to take it out of a distressed state. Hopefully it answered that.
Yeah. I did have a quick question from Melissa. She asked if you can show the top 10 buy and hold mistakes slides again, because I think she wanted to take a quick screenshot.
Okay. So any other questions? I'll just kind of go through these while they're taking screenshots.
No problem. Melissa asks, does Madison Ria teach/mentor on the short-term rentals?
I'm sorry, say that again, Hannah.
Does Madison Ria teach/mentor on short-term rentals?
I something I missed in there. I got teaching short-term rentals, but I missed the word after that.
Yeah, the Madison area. What is it? Your group, the
RIA.
Yeah. Do they teach or mentor on short-term rentals?
Oh, mentoring. I'm sorry. I'm getting a fuzzy connection here. Yes, we actually, we service investors all the way from people who just want to come in and associate with others, all the way to, full-blown coaching program where I work with people one-on-one, and then the Blueprint Academy kind of right in the middle to allow people to learn on their own time, So yeah, 2 different ways to do that. Or actually 3 different ways, to be honest with you. So yes, to answer that question.
Perfect. Another question was, what were the books again? Which we can get to after this.
Yep, after this screen, I'll show you.
Perfect. Can you discuss how to buy a property with 0 down again?
With a what?
With 0 money down. Again.
So the 0 money down is, and this is the BRRRR method, and I'll get to the books in a minute, but it's all about finding a property under value. So the part about buying it under value allows me to be able to, like the question about forced depreciation, to create value. So there's a lot of properties out there, whether they're duplexes, 4 units, single family homes, that are distressed from a physical standpoint. And many of them have tired landlords or people that just aren't taking care of properties. Well, I know because of the state, some of the properties I buy, that because of the condition, I'm not going to pay retail because now I have to do work to it. So I'm trying to find properties that I have enough margin in there to be able to buy that property and do so, whether I bring my own money in for a down payment or I borrow it from others. But the only way to get in a property with 0 money out of pocket is either you have to do something creative with the seller, meaning seller financing, which is a whole nother topic and presentation, or I need to be able to borrow that money from private investors who want to invest in my project. And that way I can do it without any money out of pocket. So there's more steps behind that, but it's definitely something that, I teach all the time, and it's definitely part of my Blueprint Academy.
Another question was, Michael says, I've been learning about real estate for the past year and a half. It's time to jump in, having difficulty finding deals. How do I get in touch with wholesalers/retailers, realtors who have good flow of deals?
Well, yeah, the good flow of deals is unfortunately an oxymoron. Michael, as you said, there's properties on the MLS, right? They're listed for sale. And unfortunately, in our market right now, there's so much competition because there's so little inventory that any property that really truly is a good deal on the MLS, someone's going to overpay for it because there's so much competition for people buying because there's not enough inventory. So I don't think I've bought a true rehab, flip, or rental property that was a good deal on the MLS and in Dane County, in the Madison area, Dane County, in, I don't know, 5, 6, 7 years. Now, that doesn't mean there aren't deals out there. I just don't look as much out there because I go to the second part, which I'll answer your question, and that is I do a lot of marketing. So grassroots marketing, feet on the street, direct mail marketing, door knocking, going to networking associations, talking to realtors about deals they might have off market, that kind of stuff. And so that's a whole nother area. But you're right, finding good deals, they're not just sitting out there. I mean, when you find a good deal, you've got people who probably want to buy it, like you as a wholesaler or as a rehabber looking for a wholesaler. But if you're looking for those people, your best bet, and why I built the Madison RIA, was for the association, because we have wholesalers, we have rehabbers, we have flippers, we have buy and hold rental people. And so that would be a great resource to be able to start networking with other people who are doing and wanting the same thing you are.
Okay, another question we had was, can you please speak to the benefits and trade-offs of properties with multiple units? Example, 2 unit versus 4 unit versus 12 unit.
Yeah, well, it really comes down to, I guess, timing. So if you were to tell me, look, Chris, I'm looking to buy my first property and it's a 12 unit, I might take a step back and ask you a lot of questions, because 12 units is going to take more time, energy, and effort and education than 2 units. So that's maybe one way to answer that. The other is economies of scale. So if I've got 12 units and they're in one building, well, now I have, one roof, and I probably have one boiler or maybe 12 furnaces, probably, boiler. I've got economies of scale. Whenever I have something going on, I'm always going to one location. If I've got a duplex, I still have the economies of scale. But if I'm looking to buy duplexes to add up to 12 units and I need 6 of them, now I've got 6 properties that are in 6 different locations, and that can create, a lot more time constraints that people have depending on your availability if you're managing the property. So one or the other isn't better than the other. It's just different, and it depends on where you are in the process. I've had that conversation with a lot of people, and the real answer to be honest is it depends. And I usually will ask people 5, 10, 15 questions, about them, about their why, about their mindset, about their time, about their finances, about their skill set, all those things that'll tell me if somebody is maybe, probably slated more to maybe look at a duplex first as opposed to jumping into a 12 unit on their first deal.
Okay, we have another question that says, would you recommend buying a rental in a town/market that doesn't have a competitive market, like a small rural town?
That's a great question. I actually have one of my students right now. They're selling a 4 unit, and they bought it about 2 years ago, year and a half ago, and it's definitely a small town, and where kind of everybody knows everybody, and there's not a lot of rental properties in that town, and so when we were running through the numbers to put it out there for sale, the numbers, if that property was in Madison, it would be sold 100 times over in 5 minutes. But because it's in a small town, the numbers have to be really good on it for somebody local to buy it, because the competition and the demand for rental is so much smaller that it would make me nervous, because if we have 4 units and 2 of them are vacant, we're 50% vacant. And that will change your dynamics of your cash flow. So buying in a small town can be a great thing if it's a small town, and there's a need for it, and a lot of people. You just have to understand what the competition is to make sure that you're not buying in something that it's already overbuilt for rental property, and now you're just another number.
And then we have a question from Katie. It says, it seems like finding, rehabbing, managing rental property is like a part-time job. Is that a fair amount of time to consider for someone who already works a full-time job?
Great question. So a lot of the students I've worked with over the many years, I've worked with people that are, have 3 jobs at the same time and have kids, and they do real estate investing on the side. And I have people that don't have a job at all. They just graduated college and they can't find a job, and they do this full time. It's available for everybody and it's doable, but it comes all the way back to one of my very first slides. That is the why. Why are you doing this? Why do you want a rental property? Because if your why is big enough, I've seen people do insane types of work and dedication and persistence to make it work when they had jobs and they had kids and they had all these commitments, but they found time. They gave up and sacrificed other things because their why was so powerful. So that is a big one. So there's a lot of answers to that. What I would tell you is, with regard to the time it takes, I have people that spend 30 hours a week in the real estate investing business, and I have people that spend 4 hours a week. And I wouldn't say one of them is more successful than the other. They're just different.
Okay, and then I think our last question is, something you mentioned was how important having a growth mindset is. What are some ways to get more into a growth mindset?
Well, that's books, that's reading and associating. So I talk a lot about reading and associating because we are the average of the 5 people we spend the most time with, not only from what they talk about and think about and their aspirations, but also finances. And, I think some people have to, unfortunately, sometimes take a hard look at that. Are they in an environment on a regular basis that is creating a good mindset, is creating, the opportunities because you're talking about it, you're taking action in it. But the mindset to me is about, the conversations that you have, the people that you are associating with, and definitely the information that you're putting into the most important real estate in your world. And that's the 6 inches up here. And that's why I recommended these 3 books. That's why I built the RIA, because I know how important association is. I need it for me. And I've been doing this for 20, plus years. And I still need it. And I will always need it because I'm always learning stuff from all the people around me. And they can create my mindset that I believe I can do anything and any deal. And whether it's no money or whether it's creative with a seller. And that becomes what we teach. And when you learn more, your mindset gets stronger and it gets more positive. So I think it's reading, it's associating, watching videos or YouTube or whatever information you might get online, but putting as much of that into your brain as you can will just create a strong mindset. And then you just need to find other people who are doing it and plug in.
Well, fantastic, Chris. I don't think we have any more questions,
Okay.
But I wanted to thank you so much for sharing your knowledge with us. I can tell that this is something you're very passionate about, and I really appreciate having you here today.
Yeah, it was great. And I would be happy to continue on in the future if you ever want me to go deeper into other subjects. And for those of you that are on the call, again, if you're interested in getting that worksheet, which is a big part of this whole process, just send me a quick email and I'll shoot you out a copy of it. And then for the people that get plugged in and want to learn more, you've got my contact information, which is right here again. And that's it. So I appreciate all your time tonight. And thank you so much. I hope to meet you in person soon.
Awesome. Thank you, Chris.
All right. Good night. Bye now.